it back. Most people will go their entire lives never even scratching the surface of what they're capable of. Not because they're not smart enough, not because they're not talented enough, back, but because they keep making the same three mistakes. They confuse being busy with being productive. They chase comfort over growth, and they quit right before the results were about to show up. The truth? It back. Your potential isn't lost. You're just killing it slowly. And today I'm going to show you why. Most people mistake movement for progress, it back. And it's one of the biggest reasons they never reach their potential. They think if they're busy, they must be growing, but being busy is not the same as being effective. You can run on a treadmill for hours, back, sweating, burning energy, but you'll still be in the exact same spot when you step off. That's what most people do with their careers, their businesses, their health, and even their relationships. In fact, they fill their calendars, check off to-do lists, and feel like they're advancing, but they haven't actually moved closer to their goals. The truth is, activity gives a temporary sense of satisfaction. It back. It makes you feel like you're in control, when in reality, you're avoiding the hard work that actually changes things. Potential is not unlocked by being busy. It's unlocked by being intentional. Think about how often people confuse the two in fitness. They go to the gym, wander around, do a few random exercises, maybe scroll their phone between sets, then leave feeling like they did something. But weeks go by and their body looks exactly the same. Why? Because they weren't following a program, they weren't tracking, and they weren't pushing intensity. They were moving, but they weren't progressing. Progress requires focus, discipline, and strategy. It requires you to repeat the right movements consistently enough to create growth. Just going through the motions won't get you there. And yet most people prefer motion because motion is easier than progress. Motion feels like work without the discomfort of growth. This same pattern shows up in careers. People show up to work every day, attend meetings, answer emails, and keep busy from 9 to 5. At the end of the week, they feel exhausted and justify it by saying, I worked so hard. But when you look closer, they didn't push a project forward, they didn't learn a new skill, they didn't create value that compounds. They just maintained. In fact, they moved papers from one pile to another. That's why years go by and they feel stuck in the same position. Progress would have required them to seek uncomfortable feedback, take risks on bigger responsibilities, back, or build skills beyond what the job requires. But they confuse business with growth, and so they stagnate. It's easier to look busy than to do the work that makes you better. Entrepreneurs are guilty of this too. They'll spend hours designing logos, tweaking their website, making business cards, or organizing their workspace. They trick themselves into believing these tasks are necessary to build momentum, but none of those things create revenue or validate a business idea. They stay busy with surface-level tasks because it feels safe. Back. True progress means picking up the phone, asking for the sale, creating the product, or testing the offer. But that's uncomfortable. That comes with rejection, with failure, with data that may show your idea isn't good enough yet. So instead, they keep moving in circles that feel productive but produce no real outcome. The business doesn't grow, and neither do they. Why do people fall into this trap? Because movement is addictive. It gives the illusion of control, like you're on the game. Checking a box, finishing a call, or completing a task gives a little dopamine hit. Your brain feels accomplished even if the task didn't matter. Progress, on the other hand, often feels boring in the short term. It's the same workout repeated week after week. It's writing the same type of sales email 100 times until you get good at it. It's practicing the same skill until mastery starts to compound. That doesn't feel exciting. It feels repetitive, sometimes even discouraging because results don't show up right away. So people default to motion because it gives immediate gratification without demanding patience. Another reason is fear. Progress is measurable, which means it can reveal failure. If you set a goal to lose 10 pounds in 3 months, you either succeed or you don't. If you decide to double your income, there's a clear line that tells you if you did it or not. That accountability scares people because failure threatens their self-image. But if you just stay busy, you can't fail because there was no clear definition of winning. You can always say, I tried my best, I was working hard. Movement becomes a shield from judgment. It protects the ego, but it sacrifices potential. You'll never know what you could have been capable of if you hide behind endless activity instead of facing the scorecard of real progress. There's also the cultural glorification of business. People wear it like a badge of honor. How often do you hear someone say, I'm just so busy, like it's proof of importance? But being busy isn't the same as being impactful. Some of the most successful people in the world don't spend their days in chaos. They focus on the few actions that truly move the needle. They spend their energy wisely, not constantly. Back. They understand that the point isn't to fill time, it's to produce outcomes. Average people chase full calendars. Extraordinary people chase full results. Back. And that difference separates those who reach their potential from those who don't. To break free from this trap, you have to start asking yourself a different question. Back. Is what I'm doing right now moving me closer to the outcome I want, or is it just keeping me busy? It sounds simple, but most people never stop to reflect. They assume because they're tired at the end of the day, back, they must be advancing. But tiredness is not proof of progress. If that were true, everyone working long hours at a job they hate would be fulfilled and successful. Instead, most are burned out and stagnant. Back. Progress requires you to measure outcomes, not hours. It forces you to cut out the comfortable tasks and lean into the ones that actually produce change. Think about the gym again. A focused 4 or 5 minute workout with progressive overload will transform your body faster than 3 hours of random activity. The same applies to business. One focused sales call is more valuable than 50 tweaks to your website design. In life, one honest conversation with your partner about a recurring issue is more impactful than months of passive avoidance. Progress is about doing the uncomfortable thing that moves the needle. Movement is about doing anything to avoid it. When you start cutting away the noise and focusing only on the actions that compound back, you begin to see what you're truly capable of. That's when potential stops being a dream and starts becoming real. Most people never reach their potential because the second something feels uncomfortable, they stop. They chase the path of least resistance, thinking comfort equals happiness, when in reality it equals mediocrity. Growth doesn't happen inside comfort zones. Comfort zones are where you maintain, not where you advance. Back. Every meaningful skill, every ounce of strength, every leap forward is born from discomfort. That's why competence is rare. It demands that you endure what most people avoid. People want the results of greatness, but cling to the ease of familiarity. They want mastery without struggle, strength without sweat, success without failure. The equation doesn't work like that. Back. Comfort is seductive because it whispers safety. When you stay in comfort, nothing threatens you. There's no risk of embarrassment, no falling short. But that also means there's no reward. Think of a child learning to walk. Every step is unstable, shaky, uncomfortable. But if the child avoided discomfort, they'd never stand up, never walk, never run. Adults forget this. They want to grow without wobbling back. They want to learn without looking foolish. They want to achieve without failing publicly. So they stay seated, convincing themselves they're fine where they are. But fine is not potential. Fine is settling. Back, look at fitness again. People want a strong, lean body, but most never push past the point of discomfort in their training. They lift weights that are easy. They stop when the burn sets in. Like they quit when sweat makes them tired. Yet the growth of the muscle only happens when the fibers are broken down under stress. No stress, no adaptation, no pain, no progress. Back. It's the same with building competence in any field. You only sharpen a skill when you expose it to challenge. You only gain mastery when you keep going despite frustration. Avoid the discomfort, back, and you avoid the growth. It's not complicated. It's just uncomfortable. In careers, the pattern repeats. People stick to what they already know instead of stretching into what they don't. Back. They avoid the tough projects, the ones that would force them to learn. They keep saying yes to tasks they can do with their eyes closed. That keeps them comfortable, but it also keeps them replaceable. Back. The people who rise in organizations are not the ones doing what's easy. They're the ones taking on challenges that others are scared of. They're willing to fail visibly, back, to look incompetent while they grow competent. That's the trade, off-eye embarrassment today for expertise tomorrow. Most aren't willing to pay that price. Entrepreneurs also fall into the comfort trap. They love the idea of running their own business, but not the discomfort that comes with it. Making cold calls feels awkward, so they avoid it. Asking for money feels intimidating, so they don't. Back, having tough conversations with employees feels stressful, so they push it off. Instead, they tinker with logos, branding, and other easy tasks that make them feel busy, but don't require discomfort. Back. The market only rewards competence, not comfort. And competence is developed through repeated, uncomfortable actions. If you're not willing to get uncomfortable, you're not willing to grow. Back. And if you're not growing, your business isn't either. Why is this such a trap? Because humans are wired to conserve energy and avoid pain. Our brains evolved to keep us safe, not to make us exceptional. Back. Discomfort triggers the alarm system in the brain. Stop. This feels dangerous. But in modern life, most discomfort isn't danger. It's just effort. It's lifting a heavier weight, standing in front of a crowd, back, making an uncomfortable phone call. None of those things will kill you. But your brain treats them like threats, so you retreat. If you don't learn to override that instinct, back, you'll keep trading long-term growth for short-term ease. And that's the death of potential. The irony is that chasing comfort makes life harder in the long run. Skip the hard workout today and you deal with chronic health problems later. Avoid tough conversations now and your relationships collapse years down the line. Refuse to take career risks and you wake up decades later stuck in a job you hate with no options. Comfort delays pain, but it multiplies it over time. Competence requires you to face pain early, to lean into the hard thing now so life becomes easier later. Take it back. That's why the people who achieve more aren't actually smarter or luckier. They're just more willing to endure discomfort earlier than others. Think about the best performers in any field. Back. Athletes practice through pain, through fatigue, through endless repetition. Musicians play the same notes until their fingers bleed. Back. Business leaders sit through rejection after rejection until they finally figure out what works. None of it is comfortable. But competence is built brick by brick, rep by rep, failure by failure. Most people bow out before the compounding kicks in. They never give themselves the chance to become competent because the moment things hurt, they retreat. And retreat guarantees mediocrity. You can't reach your potential by running from the very thing that creates it. What separates the exceptional from the average is their relationship with discomfort. Average people see it as a stop sign. Exceptional to take it back. Exceptional people see it as a green light. Discomfort means you're in the zone where growth happens. It's proof that you're pushing past your current limits. Instead of retreating, you lean in. Instead of fearing it, you accept it as the cost of growth. The more you expose yourself to discomfort, the more tolerant you become. Over time, what was once terrifying becomes normal. And at that point, you've expanded your capacity. You've built competence. That cycle repeated over and over again is how potential is reached. Most people drift through life without a clear definition of winning it back. They say they want success, but they've never defined what success actually means. If you don't know what you're aiming for, you'll never know when you've hit it. That's why so many people feel lost it back. Even when they're working hard, they're sprinting in circles, chasing vague ideas instead of measurable outcomes. Defining winning requires clarity, and clarity forces accountability. Back. Once you know exactly what you want, you can measure if you're failing or succeeding. Most people avoid that pressure, so they avoid defining the target. They'd rather stay confused than risk facing the truth. Get back. Think about how most people approach health. They'll say, I just want to be fit. But what does that mean? For one person, it's losing 20 pounds. For another, it's running a marathon. For another, take it back. It's building muscle and looking strong. Without a clear definition, you can't design the right plan. You can go to the gym every day and still not get the results you want back because you don't know what you're aiming for. Progress without direction is just movement. That's why defining what winning looks like is step one. But most people don't do it back because then they'd have no excuse for falling short. Careers play out the same way. Ask someone what they want in 5 years, and most can't tell you. They'll say things like, I just want to grow, or I want to make more money, but they can't put numbers on it. Growth into what role? More money, how much? They avoid defining it because once it's specific, it becomes a scoreboard. Scoreboards make people uncomfortable. If you say you want to make 100,000 in 2 years and don't hit it, you're forced to confront failure. It back. If you just say you want more, you can always justify whatever you got. That's not ambition. That's hiding behind vagueness. Entrepreneurs do this all the time too. They start businesses saying, back, I want to help people. That's noble, but it's not a business target. How many people? By when? Through what product or service? If you don't define winning, take it back. You'll never know if you're building a business or just running a hobby. Clarity creates strategy. Without it, you stay stuck in chaos, working hard, but getting nowhere. It feels safer to say, back, I'm still figuring it out, than to commit to a real measurable goal. But that safety is an illusion because drifting costs you years, and those years don't come back. The reason most people avoid defining winning is simple fear of failure. If you say out loud that you want to achieve something specific and don't hit it, you can't hide. It exposes you back. It forces you to see whether you're actually moving forward. And that's terrifying because most people would rather preserve their ego than test their limits. It back. They'd rather stay potentially great than risk proving they aren't. But here's the catch. You can't reach potential by staying in potential. You only reach it by putting yourself on the line back, defining the win and pursuing it relentlessly. That's how the game is played. Another trap is comparison. People don't define winning for themselves, so they default to society's scoreboard. They chase the house back, the car, the job title, the vacations, because that's what everyone else says success looks like. But when they get it, they still feel empty. Why? Because it wasn't their definition of winning back, it was someone else's. True progress comes from chasing goals that matter to you, not to your parents, your friends, or Instagram. Without your own definition, you'll always borrow someone else's. And that guarantees dissatisfaction. You'll never feel like you've won because you were never playing your own game. Defining winning is uncomfortable because it requires honesty. You have to admit what you really want, not what sounds good. Maybe you want to make $1 million, not just be comfortable. Maybe you want to be in incredible shape, not just healthy enough. Maybe you want an extraordinary relationship, not just someone who treats me okay. Admitting that out loud forces you to confront whether your actions line up with it. That's why most people water down their goals. They don't want to feel like frauds. So they shrink their targets until they can't lose. But playing a game you can't lose means you'll never truly win. The irony is that once you define what winning looks like, everything gets easier. Decisions become clearer, priorities become sharper, distractions fall away. If you know your definition of fitness is running a marathon, you don't waste time bodybuilding. If you know your goal is 200,000 hours in an income, you can reverse engineer the sales you need. If you know your definition of success in relationships is building a family, you don't waste years with people who don't share that vision. Defining the win doesn't just give you a target, it gives you a filter. And most people never create one, so they waste their potential on noise. Clarity doesn't guarantee you'll win but it guarantees you'll know if you're playing the right game. That's where real growth happens. When you define the outcome, you can measure the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Gap is uncomfortable, but it's also the starting point of progress. Without it, you're just running in circles. Most people don't like the feeling of being behind, so they avoid creating the scoreboard. But if you're not willing to see the scoreboard, you're not willing to win. And if you're not willing to win, you'll never reach your potential. Most people never reach their potential because they quit too soon. They don't stick around long enough to see the compounding of their actions. At the beginning of anything worth doing, results are invisible. You work out for a month and your body barely changes. You put effort into a business and the money trickles in, if at all. You study a skill for hours and still feel clumsy. That early stage is where almost everyone drops off. They decide it's not working, when in reality, just hasn't worked yet. Compounding is slow and impatience kills potential faster than anything else. Think about fitness. The first weeks at the gym don't show dramatic changes. The scale might not move Your strength feels weak and the mirror looks the same. That's why people give up. They expect instant transformation when the body is still adapting. What they don't realize is that progress was happening underneath the surface. Muscles were learning to fire, metabolism was adjusting, habits were being formed. But since they couldn't see results fast enough, they quit. Had they stayed the course another 6 months, they would have seen dramatic change. Quitting too early erases the benefits compounding was about to deliver. The same is true in business. The first year often feels like endless work with little payoff. You're making calls, creating offers, posting content, and barely anyone notices. Sales trickle in slower than you hoped. Most entrepreneurs quit here, convincing themselves the idea wasn't good enough. But in reality, businesses rarely explode in the first year. Trust, reputation, and audience take time to compound. Every piece of content, every call, Every product iteration is a brick in the foundation. It doesn't look like much until one day the wall is high enough to be seen. But most never get there because they walk away before the wall stands tall. Skill building works the same way. At first, you're terrible. You practice, but your performance looks like failure. Whether it's writing, coding, speaking, or selling, the first attempts are awkward. People quit in this stage because they can't stand being bad at something. They forget that mastery is built on thousands of bad reps that eventually stack into skill. Each repetition looks insignificant on its own, but together they create exponential growth. The people who stick it out through the embarrassing stage are the ones who get good. Everyone else stops before the compounding of practice has a chance to pay off. Why do people quit early? Because compounding is invisible at first. You put in the work and nothing seems to happen. Human brains are wired to seek immediate feedback. And when we don't get it back, we assume the effort is wasted. That's why instant gratification is so powerful. Social media gives us likes right away. Junk food gives us dopamine right away. Real growth doesn't. Real growth takes months or years before it shows. Most people don't have the patience for that, so they bail. They'd rather have a small win now than a massive win later. That trade-off guarantees they'll stay average. Compounding doesn't just reward effort, it multiplies it. The more consistent you are, the greater the payoff over time. Missing a week at the gym early on might not matter much, but missing months breaks the chain and resets progress. Writing 1 page a day for a year doesn't look impressive day by day, but at the end, back, you've written a book. Posting content for 2 years might feel slow, but it builds an audience that suddenly skyrockets your influence. The challenge is that the payoff is backloaded. You don't feel it at the start back, but you feel it massively later. That delay is why most never experience their potential. The people who reach their potential aren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. Get back. They're the ones who stayed in the game long enough for compounding to work. They embraced boredom, repetition, and the invisible stage of growth. They didn't quit when no one was watching, when results were slow. Get back. When doubt was loud, they understood that compounding is like planting seeds. You don't dig them up every day to check if they've sprouted. You water them, you protect them, and you wait. Potential is the harvest. It back, but only for those who stayed long enough to see the field grow. Most never do. Another reason people quit before compounding kicks in is comparison. They look at others who are ahead and assume they're falling behind. They don't realize those people have simply been consistent longer. Instead of focusing on their own journey, they get impatient and chase shortcuts. They jump to the next shiny opportunity, the next trend, back, thinking it'll be faster. But starting over resets the clock. Every time you quit and restart, you erase the compounding you've already built. Chasing speed slows you down. Back, the real acceleration comes from staying put and letting time do its work. Quitting early also comes from underestimating how long things actually take. Back, people think success is supposed to happen in months when it usually takes years. They see highlight reels of overnight success stories and forget those were built on a decade of invisible work. Back, if you expect fast results, you'll almost always quit when reality doesn't match the fantasy. That's why patience is such an underrated skill. Patience isn't passive. Get back. It's active commitment to keep going when results aren't immediate. The longer you can hold that commitment, the more potential you unlock. Quitting early cuts the process short every single time.